Hello, you incredible friends. This is your pal Edwards here speaking. I'm being honoured to LinkedIn live stream the legendary Heather Mitchell, Money Mentor. How are you today, Heather Mitchell?
I'm fantastic, Edzia. Thank you for inviting me onto your live stream.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And just so you know, everyone, we're here streaming over LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. X, and it's an honourable pleasure. I've got my mobile phone in my hand to keep track of your comments. So if you just come in, smash that like, share, and comment. If you are watching a recording, like, share, and comment, and connect with Heather Mitchell. Now, Heather and I go back many years. She's a powerful lady, money mentor that helps people deal with financial traumas and then also become super wealthy. Heather, tell us a bit about your backstory. I've never actually asked you this question. Tell us your backstory. How did you get here to become the powerful money mentor you are?
Well, it goes back a long way. So when I was a little girl, my dad involved me in his investments, and so I kind of been investing my entire life. So that's kind of the main kind of thrust of it. But also, oh gosh, I just realized that a lot of my friends were struggling. In England, you don't talk about money at all. So I did all my investing in secrets, and no one ever knew that I was doing it. But I also noticed that they were struggling and they had several jobs and responsibility was all theirs. And so I kind of felt that at some point I'd like to help them. But it wasn't until I came to Australia 7 years ago that I really felt that I was able to do that, because it's a little bit more open here. And I just felt like I could come out as an investor and really help people along the way.
It sounds like you're coming out like you're gay or something. Just going back a bit, right? You can probably tell by the look on my face of confusion. So in the UK, is money a bit of a taboo? I wasn't aware of that. Please tell. Is that like a bit of a taboo topic? Tell us more about it.
Yeah. I mean, you could just about as easily talk about sex as money. It kind of fits in the same sort of bracket. But the trouble is that not only is it a taboo subject in polite company, but it's also a taboo subject in families as well. So I have so many instances of parents not talking to their children about it. And so it's always a very awkward subject to even address. And so this is where the problem lies, really, because we're not taught about money at school. And if they don't talk about it at home, either because they don't know about it or because they don't want to share about it, then where on earth are people to learn how to actually do money? It's a real problem.
It's fascinating you say that, actually. And again, just so you know, I don't know. I thought you've been in Australia for 20 years. At least I didn't know that. There you go. Welcome to Australia. Sorry, I came to Sydney 13, 14 years ago. It's interesting, actually, because married to wonderful lassie. We've got 2 kids. Our daughter is 6 years old. I was teaching my daughter what cash flow was the other day, saying, hi, Daddy's problem is he has all this money coming in, but people haven't paid him yet. But the problem is he has all these bills of people demanding money now, and this is called the cash flow gap. And she instantly grasped it. I find it funny, actually, tragically funny, because I've got no problem talking about money, right? Be it I've got financial problems, I'll bring it up. Be it I'm making heaps of money and winning, I'll bring it up. Why do a lot of people have trouble talking about money? Because it's funny, maybe this is my failing, but I don't get it, because to me, it's the lifeblood. It could just be my Arabness coming out. Tell us, why do people not talk about money? It's like, crazy. I think you're nuts, but I love that not you're nuts, but I think they're nuts not talking about it. Tell us what you think.
I think it's because a lot of their personal identity is based around money. It's a very, very complex subject. This is why I'm fascinated by it, because it's so weighty. There are so many associations around money, how much you've got. It's like admitting you haven't got much money is like admitting that there's something wrong with you. It goes very, very deep. And I think it's just a lot of trauma around it. I think people are regretful, they've made mistakes, things have happened in the past, they've had a lot of, stories and inferences from their parents and from their caregivers. There's a lot of associations around money. And I think that when people talk about it, it brings up a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff, should we say. So that's why they want to associate with it. They don't want to talk about it because they admit they could be admitting to some sort of shameful thing.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. So you're saying, so a lot of, and I agree with this, I couldn't agree with you more. So a lot of people have a lot of negative emotions and shame attached to money. So therefore, this, I suppose, is where I disagree with them. Instead of bringing it up and dealing with it, they just sweep it under the rug. It's a taboo topic. We don't talk about it. Is that a fair interpretation of what you're saying?
100%. That's exactly what happens. And the thing is, when you sweep it under the carpet, it doesn't go away. It's still there. It's just there under the surface. And then what happens is it starts to control the show. So all the wounds and the traumas you have around money, suddenly they're driving the bus. They're actually taking control of you. And so when you have a situation where you have to make a decision around money, when there's something that's really important, that's a crunch point, you get a little, you instantly go to the association, and then you get a trauma response, and then you don't know what to do. It's fight or flight or freeze. You just don't know what to do. And that's all because you haven't dealt with that money issue.
Oh, incredible. Now, friends, if you just checked in, like, share, and comment. If you're watching the recording, thank you. We're streaming to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter X. And also to my amazing friends, please connect with Heather Mitchell. She's a top lady who I've known for many years. And it's interesting, actually. So I can understand where money trauma comes from, right? I get there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think a lot of it would be generational as well, because now I'm talking to you about it, right? I remember, and absolutely no disrespect to my mum. This comment's more aimed at my dad, right? My mum was always the smart one. Right? She was always the smart one. My mum was the brains of the household, right? And my dad, who left us, by the way, right? So there you go. So obviously I've got some daddy issues there, right? But he would never talk about money. Like, my mum would be the pragmatist talking about money and bills. And my dad, I think he'd always get angry when we talk about money. He'd always get angry. He'd always say stuff. And I think you're right, because I think in my dad's world, he had so much negativity towards money, he didn't have the maturity to handle the conversation. So I suppose that brings me to my first question. To those that have trauma about money, now, of course, they should speak to you and work with you, obviously, right? But to those listening who have a lot of issues about money, what do you say to them to start solving that problem?
Well, the first thing is really recognizing that there is a problem. You know, the other day I was talking to a client and he said, no, I don't have any money traumas. There's no money traumas here.
Oh, yeah.
And then he instantly, in the next breath, said, I do this every day, and it actually is really affecting my life. And I was just like, yes, you do have a money trauma. You know, it's like, it's almost like there's so much denial and so much stuff you put on top of it that you don't actually recognize that there is a trauma in the first place. I think the first thing is to actually recognize that there is a trauma, and the way to do it is to just talk about it. You know, it's funny because so much of my conversation with people, they say, gosh, you know, I've never told anyone this before in my life. You know, it's because they don't really think about it very much. They don't really think about it in those terms. And so whilst they haven't told me, they probably haven't told themselves, because they don't really think about their money stories in those terms. Obviously, they know what's happened, but I weave together all the kind of past history, the ancestry, the context in which they've been in this world, and really get to grips with an understanding of where they are now and why they actually make the decisions they do around money. It's like this whole sort of detective work to try and understand, oh, okay, this is why you've been the way that, and obviously everyone's different. It's really fascinating.
And amazing, Heather. And just want to check in, we've got Sabina Sulovsky with us. Sabina, we love you. Got a fellow Brit with us, Aussie Brit, I should say. There we go. Now, it's interesting you say that, because when you're saying that, it brings up policing, right? So again, I come from an Army federal policing background, going back many years, right? And interestingly, and I'm talking more crime here, right? When you're understanding why someone committed a crime, it's actually very similar to what you said. It's like, when you're basically, I can't remember the model, there's a model for it, but it's basically what brought you here, what motivated you to do the crime, and why do you regret it? And the reason why you basically explore that was the same thing, like putting it, so no judgment, but what happened to you in life to cause you to be where you are today? And you get them to tell you your story. And it's funny because in this police example, where the tragedy often occurs is that quite often they're a product of their environment. Yeah, they might have stolen a car or assaulted someone. They might have done something quite heinous. But when you sit there and understand their story, saying, yeah, my dad I never had a dad. I used to get beaten up. I lived on the streets. So I find quite often when you actually hear people's stories, yes, I'm not saying they're not accountable for their behavior, but quite often they're a result of their environment. They've had so many things done to them that it's guided their view. So I can imagine if you come from a household where it's taboo to talk about money, you're going to have trouble talking about money. And is that your fault? What do you think of that backstory there, Heather?
Exactly, that's exactly right. Because when you're growing up in the first, say, 7 years of life, that's when you're taught about how everything works. Like you have this sort of blueprint of life, and you have no reason to question that. So then you kind of go through your entire life with that same blueprint. So absolutely, so when we have a trauma, or when we operate around money or anything else for that matter, we are operating from the perspective of a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. So this is kind of how we especially when you're in a traumatic situation, it's children against children. It's like the child in you is what's coming up. So that's the child is what needs healing.
Oh, there you go. We've got Josh Marks with us, and Josh Marks, good seeing you. If you come in, like, share, comment. Josh Marks says, good point. It takes courage just to open up and handle a topic and then improve and declarations around it. And I say this about me with shame, but transparency. So what happened to me was, and I know I wasn't the only one, I ran out of money during the lockdowns, believe it or not. So again, with the whole, pandemic lockdowns and all that, our business is growing nicely and beautifully and all that. Then once the lockdowns hit, I lost 80% of my revenue. I had to go, we went on JobKeeper, Disaster Pay, went on all these government schemes to basically keep the lights on. And business is kicking butt today, like 2 years later. It's taken a lot of hard work to get there. But it's funny, actually, because even though you could say it was the pandemic, I felt like a lot of guilt and shame. So I remember when those artificial conditions were impacting my business, I had to actually process a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. And that manifested in overeating. I went and put on 20 kilos. So that guilt and shame then caused me to really overeat. And it's funny to say, the biggest thing that I found was telling the truth is very important. I think when there's something going on that we're hiding, that just makes it worse. What do you think on that one, Heather?
Absolutely, that's exactly right. It's the trauma comes out. The trauma is what runs the show. And with the overeating, that's quite often there's an emotional kind of gap, and the eating is what you kind of you interpret that as hunger. So then you eat, and then it makes you feel momentarily better.
Yeah, I'm with you. In fact, one of my tricks is, this is my live stream fuel, Cadbury Flakes. So fine British chocolate, there you go. Is that a fine British chocolate, Cadbury? There you go.
It is very British, that's true.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, Heather, now we've spoken a bit about the negative. And again, I know you can't we're talking in general terms, you can't give specific financial advice. We're not having a general conversation. So if you are listening, speak to Heather directly. Now, you help people recover from their money traumas. And another side of what you do is you help people build their investments and make money. Again, we are talking in general terms. We're not giving financial advice here. Tell us on a higher level, how do you help people? So yes, you help fix their money traumas. How do you actually help people build wealth? And what are some of your thoughts on that one in a general context?
Absolutely. Well, I think the first thing to note is that in order to build a wealthy life, it's like you need to build assets, because assets are what ultimately pay you. So rather than just letting everything go and just spending everything, instead, if people buy assets, then they can then have a very virtuous cycle, because the assets then pay them. And hopefully we can get people to a point where the assets and the passive income comes in to such a level that it actually pays for all one's living expenses. And at that point, you're in the fast track.
So you help people buy various assets that pays a passive income. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. A combination of passive income and growth, depending on where, you know, we produce a strategic portfolio which is deliberately diversified. My measure of kind of safety is whether people can sleep well at night.
Yeah.
If you put everything on red, you can't sleep well at night, right?
Exactly. If you can't sleep at night and you've got a loaded gun next to your bed, you probably want to review your investment strategy, which I agree with.
Exactly.
That's incredible. That's interesting, Heather. I got to say, I really admire what you're doing, and I'm just going to talk on a different viewpoint for the moment. I know we're talking about money and mindset, but this just came up to me. Business networking. I originally met you in the business networking scene. You're very well known and loved across Sydney and more. You're a massive business networker. I just want to ask you on a totally different topic about business networking. How did you get into business networking, and how has business networking, changed your life over the past 7 years and more?
Yeah, how did I get into business networking? Just a friend invited me just randomly to come along one day to just a local one. And I'd kind of known about them before, but I always felt a bit reluctant to go because I never knew what to say. And I always felt a bit like a rabbit in the headlights. So I used to kind of just like not even go, just avoid them like the plague. But I went along to this one and it was really friendly. It was all mums and business. And I thought, oh, that was quite nice, actually. So she stopped going, but I carried on going. That one stopped. So I joined another one. And then all of a sudden, when 2020 happened, it was like this unleashing. I think it was like the end of 2020 and then all of 2020, 2021, I just joined like every networking group I could find. And because of Zoom, I could just jump into one after the other. Sometimes I was doing like 7 a day. It was just a bit crazy. And then I kind of got myself a bit burnt out by the end of the year. So I had about
seven Zooms a day burn you out? No, not at all.
I know. Look what I'm
Three burn me out. 3 burn me out.
I know, Ed, you're incredible. I don't know how you have the energy to do what you do. It's like amazing to me. You're always there. Your life is in public. You're a celeb.
Yeah, it's funny. I think for me, it's funny you bring that up, Heather. It's for me, sometimes it is too much for me. And sometimes I find it so important sometimes I'm just like, breathe, just focus on the next hour. Don't worry about tonight. Let's just focus on the here and now. And we've got my old friend, Jeff Veal, with us. Jeff Veal, great seeing you. And Jeff Veal made an interesting point. Invest in digital real estate for the win. Fascinating, Jeff Veal. Great to hear from you. Now, Heather, I want to ask you, right? This is a bit how you work, right? So for anyone watching, please connect with Heather. You're going to love it. Connect with Heather on LinkedIn, like, share, comment. Heather, how can people connect with you, and what's your process for working with people? Like, how do you sort of take on customers and look after them?
Probably the easiest way is through LinkedIn. That's where we are, or other places too, but LinkedIn is the place to be. I know. Plug.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. So yeah, that's the easy way to get hold of me, and my other details are on there as well. And the process, well, at the moment I am doing one-to-ones, which I think is really, really important because we can go really, really deep. And the way I look at it actually is because I have a market research background where I really get deep and I really have a deep understanding of human behavior. So whereas before I used to give all that information that I gathered from respondents and give it to these big corporations, now I can interpret what they say and then triangulate all the data and then give it back to the person that gave it to me. So it feels a bit more like Robin Hood and like something more kind of close to my heart, like I can help real people rather than just to make corporations richer.
Yeah, I think fat cat's fat enough, Heather Mitchell.
Exactly. So the process is just chat to me. We can see if there's a commonality, if we can work together. And then I have a 5-session program that I take people through. It's called the Foundations of Financial Freedom. And it takes people all the way through from finding out what their traumas are and really healing where they are at the moment, all the way through to teaching people how to build a strategic portfolio, get that passive income coming in on a regular basis, and working towards their goals of reaching financial freedom.
Oh, fantastic. I got to say, Heather, you are an inspiring lady and love what you're about. And our friends, like, share, comment, connect with Heather. Now, Heather, it's such an honor to have you with us. Love to get some closing thoughts from you. So please give us a fantastic monologue. Give us some closing thoughts for a wonderful audience out there.
Well, I've had a thought today, which is if you miss the bus, take a jet plane. You know, if there's all these different booms that happen, the property boom, the tech boom, all these booms, crypto, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past, and people could be quite regretful that maybe they missed them or maybe they didn't take full advantage of them. But you know what? There are still so many opportunities out there, and it's actually quite an amazingly exciting time, and things are happening faster than ever before. So just start now, start where you are, and there are lots of opportunities, and the future is bright.
Yeah, and I love the old saying, and you told me this one, and I'll ask this question rhetorically. Heather, when is the best time to plant a tree?
20 years ago.
There we go. 20 years ago. There we go.
But the second best time is now.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's the end of the quote.
There we go. Brilliant. Brilliant. Now, friends, you've heard it direct from Heather Mitchell. Heather Mitchell, thank you so much. I know you're a busy lady. I just want to say we appreciate you big time.
Thank you. And also, if you want to, I have a free PDF, 10 exciting passive income ideas. So comment and I will send it to you.
There we go. Friends, love your work. Stay awesome. Heather, love your work. And thank you, everyone. Stay awesome. Talk to you later. Bye, all.